guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 eyeshadow palettes of all time according to you guys. This is going to be a super fun video. Basically, I went on Instagram as well as on the YouTube community tab with this little prompt here asking if you could only pick one eyeshadow palette for the rest of your life, and yes, you have to pick just one, which one would it be? And I got so many very similar answers, which is awesome because all of these 10 I do have in my collection we're going to be talking about today, and they're all really, really good. I want to give a big thanks to my friend Allie Glines for this video inspiration idea. She is doing top 10 foundations, top 10 concealers over on her channel, and she's making it a series, and I think it's such a good idea that I really wanted to start something very similar on my channel. So thank you so much to Allie for the amazing idea. I love hearing from you guys, and this is going to be so fun. So let's get started. Picking only one eyeshadow palette can be really, really hard, but kind of goes to show what our true faves are out there and the ones that are really, really worth the money. And all of the ones that you talked about have incredible reviews and also really, really good ratings from me. My personal experience with all of these has been amazing. So in no particular order, I'm going to start off with the first one that you guys talked about. A lot of you guys said that one of the best eyeshadow palettes of all time, one that if you had nothing else, you would pick this one only, is Pillow Talk Quad from Charlotte Tilbury. Now this is a quad I've actually had to purchase a second time. The first time it was expired out. I could tell that the formulation had changed. I had it in my collection for a number of years and it just wasn't performing to its best. And that's when I know that there's something going on with expiry, so I just purchased another one, a fresh one. This is a gorgeous quad, you guys. It's perfect for every day because it has those beautiful pinks. There's two mattes, two shimmers in here. We have a fantastic top coat here, which is like a peachy pink. It's absolutely stunning, and it adds that little extra, that little bit more sparkle to your eye if you want to do something more fun. When it comes to quads that are pre-built like this, really there's no guesswork involved. You just have to look at it and you know what you're going to put on your eye because everything is so cohesive. And that's what I really like about this palette. We do have a darker matte for some definition. We have a lighter pink matte on the top, and the beautiful shimmer shades do a great job of going all over the eye or adding a little bit more glam, which is this pop shade over here. So this is a fantastic option, you guys. I am absolutely not surprised by this pick whatsoever. This is the first palette in the top 10 best eyeshadows of all time. The next palette that is in your top 10 best of all time is one that did surprise me a little bit. I kind of figured that Huda Beauty would make an appearance, but I didn't think it was going to be this one. Now this one's kind of hard to open. Oh, there we go. Just didn't want to chip my nail polish. This is Mercury Retrograde by Huda Beauty. This is a beautiful color story. You can see it's incredibly colorful. I think this is speaking to those of us that want to have the option for some color here and there, but want those everyday friendly shadows as well. So she offers both of these in here, and I really do think this is one of her best palettes. This is one that I need to dip into a lot more. It's hard to give them all the amount of love that they need, but the textures in here are absolutely stunning, and we do have a beautiful combination of shimmers and mattes. There's some metallics in here as well, and I do feel like the mattes are very creamy, they're very user-friendly. Huda does a good job with her formulation because she adds a lot of different dimension in some of her palettes with the user-friendliness attached so that you don't have to feel intimidated if you want to dip into bolder colors, for instance. Pro tip with this one is to apply with your finger for some of those foiled shimmers. They just amplify and give you such beautiful, full opacity on the lid that just makes them look beaming. So this is a beautiful one. Actually, I don't know why, but for some reason I was surprised to see this in the countdown, and I think it's because I was maybe expecting more of a nude palette from her, but this is definitely one of your guys' favorite palettes of all time, and it is super pretty. There is one discontinued palette that I heard you guys talk about so much. If you only had one eyeshadow palette, this was the one. And it kind of broke my heart to hear about it because I know I personally have it, but there's a lot of you guys that missed out on it. And it's really sad because I will show it, of course, but it definitely does have the whole package. I definitely understand why you guys would pick this one. This is Sultry by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and this is definitely a discontinued palette, unfortunately. But I understand why it would be one of your favorite picks of all time. Now, mine is really well loved, so I love that. But this is a gorgeous palette, you guys. I've also had it for a number of years, so I really hope it stays perfect because I cannot rebuy this one. So I'm going to hold on to it as long as I can. But this is a beautiful arrangement of cooler tones, shimmers, and mattes as well. The formulation of the Anastasia products do tend to have quite a bit of fallout, unfortunately. So that is something to prepare for. Make sure that you do your eyes first. Very, very key. This is such a cohesive palette, and there is that pop of pink in there if you do want to try something a little different. At first, when I saw this palette and I saw the pink in there, I was kind of like, okay, like what am I gonna do with this? Like everything looks so cohesive except for the pink. It almost like shouts out something different. But believe it or not, it's the perfect shade of pink to add some boldness with the rest of the shades that it actually does work. And that's what I really love about this palette. If you've been lucky to purchase this one, you know how beautiful it is, but if not, I do apologize for showing it. But this was a pick from so many of you. You really, really love this one, and if you could pick anything, it would be this. So of course I had to share it. Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry is definitely one of the best she's ever done. Let's talk about the palette from Tarte that made this countdown, and I actually wasn't surprised by this either. This is the Tartelette in Bloom palette from Tarte, a bestseller across the board. This is actually one of the best sellers from Sephora, even to date. So many people buy this palette on a regular basis, and even though Tarte doesn't always make like the most trendy news right now, this is a palette that is like a staple for so many people that it still gets a ton of sales for them. So you can see how absolutely gorgeous this one is. Uh-oh, is my hand in that powder? Ah! I'm hoping I can hold on to this one-handed, but I do worry it's gonna snap closed, so I'm gonna try my best. But you can see here how cohesive this palette is too. It's an absolute no-brainer. You don't have to think about it. You can go row by row, you can go in quadrants. It is so incredibly easy to visualize eye looks with shades that will pair together well. We can't deny the formulation of Tarte shadows because they're just so easy. They do have a bit of a powdery finish, especially the mattes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad product. When the powdery finish there is done right, it does seem to give that really easy blendability to the user that you can really go from beginner all the way to expert when working with these shadows. The reflective packaging is a gorgeous touch as well, and you can see that all of them have the Tarte embossment into the powders. There's quite a bit of mattes in here, and there's definitely the shimmer option as well in each row, but this one, I totally see why you guys would pick this one because it's so everyday friendly and perfect for work or for evening. Next, we do have another Charlotte Tilbury product that did make the top 10 best eyeshadow palettes of all time according to you guys. This is the 12 pan extension of Pillow Talk. This is the 12 pan Instant Eye palette in Pillow Talk. It is a permanent from her, and you can see here that it is absolutely stunning as well. So the one thing about Charlotte that she does really well, I'm hoping I'm trying not to blind you, you can see that she pairs her eyeshadow looks into threes when it comes to palettes of this size. So this is a holiday palette formation, as well as she also has this 12 pan extension that is permanent. But you can see there's groups of 3 all along the palette, and that's what makes it so user-friendly as well. Charlotte Tilbury does get a lot of smack for doing a lot of pink, but the reality is people love these colors and they're drawn to these colors. So they're very easy to use, and I would agree with that. Pink is still one of my preferred colors because when it comes to putting looks together, it's very hard to screw it up sometimes. That's why I'm saying that this is a perfect, ingenious extension to her Pillow Talk collection. Of course, there's quite a few products now in Pillow Talk and it's starting to get a little bit overwhelming, but this was a very good extension in my opinion because we do have that beautiful classic quad that I showed earlier that now has quite a few options that really correspond and work well together. The reflective packaging is definitely a luxe touch, and you can see that there are mattes and shimmers in here, which is absolutely stunning. We do have the looks that are named at the bottom here, and the first shade in each trio is the prime shade, so you'd put that all over the lid. Number 2, or the second one in each one, is the enhanced shade, and then we have the smoke shade, which is kind of on the outer edge of your eye. So she's got basically it down to a science here. You don't have to even try. You can put gorgeous looks together with a beautiful cohesive palette. This offers quite a lot of versatility within the family of pinks and browns and some golds, so I understand why you guys would love this one so much. The next eyeshadow palette that a lot of you guys said would be your one and only palette if you could literally just pick one comes from Pat McGrath, and this one I'm also not surprised with. This is Pat McGrath's Bronze Seduction. Now this is a palette here that I have actually said in the past does offer some shades we've seen all the time. With the browns, we do have cranberry in here. We have some really nice, like, easy to use shades in here, which makes this a very relatable palette. When you do think about some other Pat McGrath palettes, they're quite bold sometimes, or there's quite a bit of color, maybe a little bit more jumpy within certain shades, like from blues to pinks, for instance. And to me, it does require a little bit more creative ability sort of, to put looks together. But this is one of her palettes that seems a lot easier to visualize. And that's just for the people that are kind of new to makeup or new to eyeshadow, and they don't want to necessarily put looks together that may clash. This is one that is so easy, and that's why when I saw this in the comments, I was like, of course, this is a beautiful palette, absolutely. The textures and shimmers that Pat McGrath offers are bar none some of the best in the industry, and that's what she's known for, especially these shades right on the end here, the Blitz Astral shades. They're gorgeous, like gel-like shimmers that just amplify the lid, and how she describes it is like out of outer space and like into the galaxy, and it's sort of true, like because of how uniquely shimmer heavy but lightweight they are when you actually apply them. Absolutely stunning here with the shimmers and the mattes, and you can see that you have those everyday friendly mattes. You can easily transition into night. This is an absolutely beautiful palette. I'm just really drawn to those shimmers at the end. I think they're stunning. Of course, the mattes are great, but the uniqueness of this palette with the shimmer formulation just makes it a showstopper. When I saw this next palette that you guys talked about, I instantly knew, of course. This is actually one of my favorite palettes of all time too. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette. This is one that I know a ton of makeup artists use for weddings because it's so universally flattering. When I open this up, you're gonna understand. Now, this is my second palette of this as well. The one I originally had in my collection had expired out, so this is a brand new, untouched one. I knew I had to repurchase it and put it back in my collection because I love it that much. When it comes to the Sultry one is not quite as old as my old Soft Glam was, so I'm just like hoping it hangs in because I can't repurchase it, right? So this is one that I had to toss out and then repurchase given that it was expired out, but I absolutely love this palette and that's why it came back. These tones, you just can't argue, are super, super easy to visualize looks with as well. We do have some cool tones, some warmer tones, the beautiful shimmers in here. And just like how I said with Sultry, this is also one that you should really do your eyes first because we do have significant fallout with this formulation. It is easy to use, but that's basically the only con I would say when it comes to Anastasia as a whole. It just seems to fall on the face no matter how hard I try. Sometimes it's more than others, and that's usually just determined with how many layers of shimmer I put on top of itself. But just make sure that you are absolutely doing your eyes first. Let's talk about the second Pat McGrath palette that made your guys' favorite palettes of all time. Now, this is also my favorite Pat McGrath palette of all time. This is Divine Rose 1, and I have talked your ear off with this palette because it's so good. It's just... it's so, so good. Love the cool tones with this one. Love the variety in here as well. There's a beautiful duochrome right here. Gorgeous shimmers. We have the Blitz Astral shades. This is everything Pat McGrath has to offer, plus a beautiful color story that is so easy to visualize looks with. I haven't seen somebody look weird with this palette. Everybody looks like a babe with this palette. It's just so, so pretty. You guys know pink is my thing, and this is like a different take on pink, you know, because there's definitely the pinks and the purples, but we have that duochrome and those gorgeous shimmers that just make this like the perfect Jena palette, but with the Pat McGrath touch, you know? This is by far my most used Pat McGrath mothership as well, because it's just so easy to put looks together. And I always recommend this palette first. If anybody wants a 10-pan mothership, this is the first one I recommend. Not surprised by this one, and this is one that if you guys saw my high-end declutter video, I almost decluttered this. This is the all-neutral Biba palette from Natasha Denona. Now, I wasn't using it as much as I thought, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna declutter it. I'm gonna put it over to the pile to give to friends and family. I'm sure they're gonna love it. And then I saw your guys' comments on that video, like, oh my goodness, you're gonna get rid of Biba? Oh my goodness. And then I was like, wait a minute, like what happened there? Why am I getting rid of Biba? So I decided to hold back and keep it. And my friends that were expecting Biba were like, yo, what happened? So anyways, changed my mind. Luckily, thanks to you guys. This is Biba from Natasha Denona, and I am not surprised at all that this made the cut, because look how beautiful and everyday friendly this palette is. The mattes are super, super creamy. The shimmers blend themselves. There's absolutely like no fallout from this formula, which is fantastic. The packaging is nice and durable, and you have such a nice variety here. I just think that this is one of the best that Natasha has done as well. I think this is so, so pretty. Like I said, I don't know what I was thinking almost decluttering this bad boy. But look at all these gorgeous, gorgeous shades. You can also see that they work together really well as well. So this is a fantastic one that I also always recommend to those of us that just want a neutral palette from a beautiful eyeshadow brand. This one, I'm not surprised, has made your list as well. We are on to the last palette out of the top 10 best palettes of all time, according to you guys. And this is actually one that I think got the most votes out of everything. So this is definitely like the top. Like if you could pick one, like best eyeshadow palette of all time, according to my friends here on YouTube, it is Natasha Denona Glam palette. This is, and again, I know why you guys like this, because I love it too. It's so, so good. Love the shimmers in here. The mattes, amazing. Blend themselves, basically. You can layer them beautifully for a little bit more opacity. They're not patchy. The cool tone collection of shades here goes well together with just like everyday friendly shades. You can do a lot more bold gold and like rich glam, or you can go a little bit more muted, right? So this is lovely. And I know that she makes a mini of this, but I prefer the midi size palette. I just like this one because of the versatility. I do think that it's worth the additional money compared to the mini. If you can save to get to this size instead, I do think it's much more worth it just because of how much you can do with this palette. I actually think that this is the Natasha Denona palette that I'd recommend probably before anything else at this point. It's just super, super pretty, super easy to use, and the price point, you can't beat it, honestly. She does have more expensive palettes with more shades or bigger shades, but this is one that is that perfect, like, if you want a beginner-friendly palette, but you don't want to break the bank, but you want a little bit more than the mini. I love this palette too so, so much. I wear it a lot, actually. This is definitely one of the best palettes of all time, according to you and according to me. I'm super curious how many of these palettes you have in your personal collection. Just like Allie, I think this is a great idea for a series on my channel, so thank you once again to Allie for this amazing idea. I think the next thing I want to ask you guys is, what is the one bronzer that you cannot live without? If you could only pick one bronzer, what would that bronzer be? Do let me know in the comments down below as well. I will be posting it on my community tab and on my Instagram stories as well later on to make sure I get all of your answers so I can accumulate my list. Until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.